The office bully stole my lunch every day. He didn't know it was cat food. I watched the fork disappear into his mouth, the tines scraping against his teeth with a sound that usually made my skin crawl. But today that sound was a symphony. The cheese stretched, the red sauce dripped onto his chin, and he chewed with that open-mouthed, arrogant smack that drove the entire accounting department insane. For a split second, looking at the sheer satisfaction on his face, I felt a twinge of guilt. It was a small, fluttering thing in my chest. Then I remembered the empty Tupperware containers left in the sink for 3 months. I remembered the sticky notes he threw in the trash. And I remembered the way he called me Scooter when he patted me on the head last week. The guilt evaporated like steam off a hot pan. Damn, Scooter, Brad mumbled around a mouthful of pasta. You really outdid yourself with this one. A little, tangy. But the texture is money. Thanks, Brad, I said, leaning against the doorframe, sipping my water. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought he'd hear it over his chewing. It's a new recipe. Very high protein. Yeah. Keto. He shoveled another bite in. A big one. Something like that, I whispered. He swallowed. He smiled. And he had absolutely no idea that he was currently eating 3 cans of Purina Pro Plan, tuna and chicken entree layered between sheets of artisanal pasta. Let's back up. You need to understand the level of disrespect I was dealing with here. I work in data analysis. I sit in a cubicle that gets zero natural light, staring at spreadsheets until my eyes bleed. My one joy, my single, solitary vice in this gray purgatory of a corporate office, is cooking. I don't mean heating up a frozen burrito. I mean cooking. I spend my Sundays simmering bone broths for 18 hours. I make my own pasta dough. I import olive oil from a specific grove in Tuscany. Cooking is my therapy. It's the only thing in my life that I have total control over. And Wednesday is lasagna day. It started as a treat for myself to get over the midweek hump. I'd bring in a slice of lasagna that was essentially a work of art. Bechamel sauce so smooth it looked like cream, a ragu that had been reduced until it was dark and rich, and fresh mozzarella. Then, Brad happened. Brad is the sales manager. If you don't know a Brad, count yourself lucky. He's the guy who wears suits that are slightly too shiny, wears cologne that smells like a chemical spill in a pine forest, and talks at a volume that makes you want to check your hearing. He refers to closing deals as hunting and calls the support staff the help when he thinks we aren't listening. The first time my lunch went missing was in November. I went to the fridge at 12:30 p.m., my stomach growling, ready for my reward. The shelf was empty. I looked around. Maybe I moved it. No. Then I walked past the break room. There was Brad, feet up on the table, digging a plastic fork into my glass container. Hey, I said, stepping into the room. That's my lunch. Brad looked up. He didn't look guilty. He didn't apologize. He actually looked annoyed that I had interrupted him. Oh, this yours? He asked, waving the fork. My bad, sport. I didn't see a name. Figured it was up for grabs. Sales meeting ran long, I was starving. You know how it is. Gotta keep the engine running. It has my name on the lid, I said, pointing to the blue lid sitting on the table. In Sharpie. Ha. He glanced at it, then shrugged. Well, I already started it. Tell you what, I'll buy you a vending machine sandwich. On me. He threw a crumpled $5 bill on the table and went back to eating my 18-hour ragu. I stood there, blinking. The disrespect was so absolute, so casual, that I couldn't even form a sentence. I took the $5. I bought a stale ham sandwich. And I seethed. I thought it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. The next Wednesday, I hid my lunch behind the milk cartons. Gone. The Wednesday after that, I put it in an opaque bag. Gone. I walked into the break room that time to find the empty container sitting in the sink. Unwashed. Crusted with cheese. Brad, I confronted him in the hallway. Stop eating my lunch. He laughed. He actually clapped me on the shoulder. Relax, Scooter. We're a team, right? Mi casa es su casa. Besides, you cook too much anyway. I'm helping you watch your waistline. I felt the heat rising in my neck, a burning sensation that started at my collar and wrapped around my skull. My vision went blurry with rage. I wanted to punch him. But I needed this job. So, I went to the proper channels. I went to HR. Janet in HR is a nice woman who is entirely terrified of conflict. Her office smells like potpourri and despair. Janet, Brad keeps stealing my food, I said, sitting in her beige chair. It's theft. And it's harassment. Janet sighed, adjusting her glasses. Look, Leo, the break room fridge is considered community property to an extent. We encourage labeling. I label it. I snapped. He ignores it. Do you have proof? Janet asked. Like, a video? Because Brad says he brings his own lunch and maybe you're just confused. He's a high performer, Leo. I can't just accuse him of stealing leftovers without hard evidence. Leftovers? I whispered. It's fresh lasagna. It's not leftovers. Just, maybe get a lunchbox with a lock, she suggested, giving me a pitying smile. I walked out of her office. A lock. I shouldn't have to lock my food up like it's the crown jewels. That night, I went home and stared at my kitchen counter. I had the flour out. I had the eggs. I was going to make lasagna. But the thought of Brad's greasy mouth sliding around my hard work made me want to scream. I wasn't going to let him win. But I wasn't going to feed him either. I drove to the store. Not the grocery store. The pet store. I bought 6 cans. Tuna and chicken entree in savory gravy. It cost me nearly $20. The cashier looked at me, then at the cans, then at me again. Cute cat, she asked. Very hungry, I said, keeping my face deadpan. I went home and got to work. This was the most important meal I would ever prepare. I treated it with the same reverence I would a Christmas dinner. I opened the cans. The smell hit me instantly, that sharp, metallic, fishy tang that unmistakably screams feline. It was gross. It was perfect. But I couldn't just dump it in. Brad was arrogant, not devoid of taste buds. I had to mask the initial nose. I mixed the cat food with a heavy dose of ricotta cheese. The creaminess of the cheese cut the fishy edge. I added garlic powder, lots of it. Oregano. Basil. A pinch of chili flakes to distract the tongue. I browned some onions and garlic in a pan, then folded the cat food pâté into it just to warm it through, breaking up the gelatinous chunks until they looked exactly like ground turkey or fine minced veal. I made a heavy tomato sauce. I used extra red wine in the reduction to provide a deep, tannic cover for the tuna. Then I assembled it. Layer 1, pasta. Layer 2, the meat mixture. I gagged slightly as I spread it, spotting a small piece of what looked like a fish eye, which I quickly buried under sauce. Layer 3, bechamel. Layer 4, mozzarella. Repeat. I baked it. The smell that filled my apartment was confusing. It smelled like lasagna, but with a weird, low-tide undertone. Like an Italian restaurant located inside an aquarium. I let it cool. I sliced a perfect, heavy square. I put it in the glass container. I wrote Leo's lunch, do not touch, on the lid in red Sharpie. I drew a skull and crossbones. Wednesday morning. 8 a.m. I walked into the office. The container felt heavy in my bag. I walked straight to the fridge. Brad was standing there, pouring coffee. "Morning, Scooter," he grinned. "What's on the menu today?" "Smells savory." "Spicy meat lasagna," I said, making eye contact. "Very spicy. You wouldn't like it." "I love spice," he winked. "Keeps the blood pumping." I put the container on the middle shelf, front and center. I didn't hide it. I wanted him to see it. I wanted him to take it. The morning dragged. Every tick of the clock was agony. I sat at my desk, pretending to analyze Q4 retention rates, but my mind was in the break room. 11 a.m. The lunch rush started. 11:45 a.m. I heard Brad's laugh booming down the hallway. 12:15 p.m. I saw him walk past my cubicle row, heading toward the kitchen. He wasn't carrying a lunch bag. My heart rate spiked to 120. I waited 5 minutes. I needed him to be committed. I needed him to be past the point of no return. 12:20 p.m. I stood up. I smoothed my shirt. I walked to the break room. The smell hit me 10 feet from the door. Hot cat food is a very specific scent. It's heavy. It's oily. It clings to the back of your throat. It was mixing with the smell of burnt popcorn from the microwave, creating an olfactory nightmare. I walked in. There were 3 other people in the room. 2 were eating salads, looking a bit green around the gills, trying to ignore the smell. And there was Brad. He was sitting at the round table. The glass container was open. He was halfway through the square. "Hey, Leo," he called out, mouth full. He pointed his fork at me. "You were lying about the spice. It's mild. A bit fishy, though. Did you use anchovies?" "Something like that," I said. I walked over to the fridge. I opened it. I stared inside. I started moving things around loudly. "Guys?" I asked, my voice rising just enough to cut through the room noise. "Has anyone seen my blue container?" Brad froze. The fork was halfway to his mouth. "What do you mean?" Brad asked, chewing slowly. "I'm eating it. We talked about this. Community property, Scooter." I turned to him. I put a look of absolute, sheer horror on my face. I deserve an Oscar for this. My eyes went wide. I covered my mouth with my hand. "Brad." I whispered. "You're eating that?" "Yeah," he swallowed hard, looking confused. "So what? I'll give you $5. "No, Brad," I said, stepping closer, my voice shaking. "That's not lunch. That's, oh my God." "What?" He dropped the fork. It clattered against the glass. "What is it?" "That's Mr. Whisker's medication food," I blurted out. "He has worms. Intestinal parasites. The vet gave me this special high-protein mash to hide the pills in. I was supposed to drop it off at the vet on my lunch break. I must have grabbed the wrong container." The silence in the break room was absolute. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator. The 2 people eating salad stopped chewing. They looked at Brad. Brad looked at the lasagna. Then he looked at me. "Worms?" he squeaked. His face, usually a flushed red from high blood pressure, drained of all color. He went pale gray. "Yes. Tapeworms." I yelled, really selling it. "And the medicine, it's strong stuff, Brad. That's why the meat smells like that. It's mostly tuna guts and chicken liver to mask the chemical taste." Brad looked at his plate. He looked at the half-eaten layer of meat. He made a sound. It was a wet, guttural gurgle that started deep in his diaphragm. I ate. He put a hand to his stomach. I ate half of it. You have to induce vomiting. I shouted, grabbing his shoulder. The vet said the side effects for humans are severe. Hallucinations. Diarrhea. Fur growth. Okay, I improvised the fur growth part. I couldn't help it. Brad didn't wait to hear more. He scrambled out of the chair, knocking it over. He sprinted out of the break room. We heard the heavy door of the men's room slam shut down the hall. Then, the sounds began. It sounded like a seal barking into a megaphone. Homework. The receptionists looked at me. One of them, Sarah, looked at the lasagna. Is that, really cat food? She whispered. I looked at her. I dropped the act for 1 second. It's Purina Pro Plan, I said. Top shelf. She stared at me. Then, slowly, a smile crept across her face. She looked at the bathroom door, then back at me. She picked up her salad and went back to eating. I didn't see anything. I took the lasagna. I walked it to the trash can. I dumped it. Brad didn't come out of the bathroom for 45 minutes. When he finally emerged, he looked like a ghost. His tie was undone. He was sweating profusely. He walked past my desk. He didn't look at me. He walked straight to his office and closed the door. He went home early. Food poisoning, the email said. The next day, Thursday, was quiet. Peaceful. I was called into HR at 2 p.m. I walked in. Janet was there. Brad wasn't. Leo, Janet said, looking at a notepad. We had a report. From Brad. Oh. I asked, sitting down. He claims you poisoned him, Janet said, looking confused. He says you brought tainted food to work with the intention of making him sick. Tainted? I shook my head. Janet, I brought cat food. For my cat. I made a mistake and grabbed the wrong leftovers. I tried to warn him. I told him it wasn't human food. But he had already stolen it and eaten half of it before I could stop him. Janet paused. She looked at her notes. So, she said slowly. To clarify. Brad is admitting that he took a container labeled with your name, without permission, and ate the contents. Yes, I said. He stole my cat's medication. Which, frankly, was expensive. That was $20 worth of premium wet food. Janet bit her lip. She was trying very, very hard not to laugh. I could see the corners of her mouth twitching. And you didn't offer it to him? No. I told him it was spicy and he wouldn't like it. Right. Janet closed the folder. Well. Since Brad admitted to theft in his own complaint. I don't think this is going to go anywhere, Leo. I'll talk to him. I think he's learned his lesson. I hope so, I said. Mr. Whiskers is still hungry. Brad was out for 2 days. When he came back, he was different. Quieter. He never touched my lunch again. In fact, he stopped using the break room fridge entirely. He started bringing a cooler bag and keeping it under his desk. Every time he walked past me, he would hold his breath, like I was the one who smelled. But the best part? A week later, we were in a team meeting. Brad was presenting some Q1 projections. He was trying to get his mojo back, pacing the room, using his laser pointer. We need to be hungry, he shouted. We need to devour the competition. From the back of the room, I cleared my throat. Just make sure you check the label before you eat, I said softly. The room went dead silent. A few people snickered. Brad froze. He looked at me. His eyes darted to the side. He swallowed hard. Right, he squeaked. Moving on. I still make lasagna on Wednesdays. I still put it in the fridge. It sits there, untouched, pristine, a monument to my victory. Sometimes, I see Brad looking at it through the glass door of the fridge, a look of longing and terror in his eyes. I eat every bite. And it tastes delicious. So, tell me. Am I the monster for feeding my boss gourmet cat food, or did the lunch thief finally get a meal he deserved?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.